And the kid asked me a really honest question, which took a lot of guts. He would say, "Miss, I don't understand why she was so upset." And the girls in the front row would all turn around and go, "What?" And the guy would say, "No, really, I don't understand." And it was an honest question, which you really have to respect. It wasn't like it was a stranger in the bushes with a gun. Like she was out on a date with a guy who's older than her. He was a senior, she's a freshman. They were at a party, she had a couple beers. Didn't take that long. Why would she be so depressed that she pretty much stopped speaking for a year? What's the big deal? And the first 20 times I heard that, I wanted to ask the kid, "Give me your mother's phone number right now," because she and I have to have a conversation. But I realized that came from a really honest place, which was that young men who are raised without dads or father figures or older brothers or grandfathers, any men in their life, often are really confused about what's appropriate when you're on a date with a woman. A lot of people don't even know what the definition of sexual assault is. A lot of guys have gone to jail because nobody had the courage to tell them when they were 15 years old what they could go to jail for. And so I realized at that point that I didn't know a lot about boys. My own son was only 9 at that point. And so I started to ask boys questions about what was hard in their life. And I kept on coming up against 3 things that so many of them had. They said, number 1, girls are confusing. I was like, yeah. Girls are confusing to girls too, so I understand that. Number 2, I was stunned by how many guys had to deal with bullying. I had no idea. And guys who actually were honest with me and said they had become bullies so that they wouldn't be bullied by other people. So that became a big thing in the book. And the third thing was the saddest. I was talking to teenage boys who were really sad because their dad was not there. Had never been there, or like their stepdad had taken off too. And they're so confused because there's no men in their life to teach them how to become a real stand-up righteous man. So I took those 3 themes and I wove them together into a book that's called Twisted, which doesn't get banned as often as Speak, which is kind of disappointing because whenever they ban your books, your sales go up. But it was really interesting to write from a guy's point of view. I also wrote a book called Catalyst that's about kids who are really high achieving kids, like the smart kids who look on the surface like everything is going well, but underneath sometimes that's not the case. I actually wrote a funny book which disappointed a lot of people called Prom, in which nobody dies or comes close to dying, and got a lot of hate mail for that. It's like, why didn't you kill her? I actually wanted to kill her, but I was in a really good place in my own life and I couldn't get depressed no matter how much I tried. So it's a kind of my strange and happy book. And then I have a friend who's a doctor. She's a pediatrician. She works with a lot of teenagers. And she actually had a number of teenage girls come to her and bring copies of Speak because they had been sexually assaulted, and then the book gave them the courage to speak up and say, wow, this happened to me. I need to talk to somebody. And their doctor was the first person they talked to. And so she really bugged me to write a book about eating disorders. So I wrote a pretty scary book about eating disorders. It's called Winter Girls, that really disturbs people a lot. So that's been an interesting thing because people who are conservative tend to be very critical of Speak. People who are liberal, I'm talking about adults, tend to like Speak because they're comfortable talking to their kids about sexuality. People who are liberal though, like the New York Times really beat me up for Winter Girls. And again, it's because those people who were upset at me didn't know how to talk to their kids about eating disorders.